The sky over Zyphora shimmered in shades of violet and gold, like liquid metal stirred by a gentle wind. Captain Elias Varn stepped off the transport and onto the marble platform of the alien palace. The air was alive with a faint hum, a vibration that seemed to come from the planet itself. He took a deep breath, gripping the strap of his armor. Everything about this place was unfamiliar, yet he could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. The palace stretched far beyond his sight. Towers of glowing crystal rose high, twisting like spirals of light. Bioluminescent plants climbed the walls, their soft glow illuminating wide corridors. Elias had been briefed on alien architecture before, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The stories of Zyphora were true. It was a place of power, beauty, and danger. Guards moved silently along the corridors, their limbs elongated and flexible, their eyes sharp and alert. They observed him closely, their movements fluid, almost hypnotic. Elias stayed calm, showing no fear. He had trained for this moment for years. He was the best Earth had to offer, a soldier chosen not just for skill but for judgment and diplomacy. The mission was clear: enter the palace, locate the intelligence core, and return safely. Any unnecessary aggression could spark a war that neither side could win. As he advanced, the palace seemed to respond to his presence. The lights pulsed slightly, shadows shifted in patterns he could not understand. The air carried faint scents of flowers, metal, and ozone. Every step felt significant, as if the planet itself was aware of the human who dared to walk its sacred halls. At the far end of the main corridor, a massive chamber opened. Elias paused, observing it through the threshold. The room was vast, its ceiling stretching beyond view. In the center, on a throne of crystalline light, sat the Empress of Zyphora, Cerelia. She was unlike anything he had ever imagined. Her skin shimmered with subtle shades of gold and silver, her eyes deep pools of luminescent green. Even seated, she radiated authority, every movement precise and deliberate. For a moment, their eyes met. Elias could feel the weight of hers, a silent question and a silent command at the same time. He straightened his posture, remaining calm. The humans had fought many battles, but this was different. This was not just war. This was diplomacy, survival, and understanding, all in one. Cerelia tilted her head slightly, studying him. Time seemed to stretch as memories flooded her mind. She remembered another human, centuries ago, a warrior who had walked a similar path. That human had changed the fate of her empire, teaching her lessons of courage, morality, and trust. The memory was vivid, almost painful, like a scar reopened. And now here was Elias, a living echo of the past. Elias stepped forward, his boots echoing softly on the crystalline floor. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice firm but respectful. "I come in peace. My mission is not to fight, but to prevent conflict. I seek an audience to discuss matters of galactic importance." Unlike Zyphorians, humans were messy, emotional, and brilliant in ways that defied logic. That unpredictability had once saved her empire. She allowed a small, almost imperceptible nod. "Human," she said, her voice smooth but commanding, "so you are here." The words carried both recognition and curiosity, echoing across the chamber. Elias felt a chill, realizing that he had stepped into a world where the past and present collided. The guards shifted slightly, forming a respectful perimeter around the human. Elias noticed their posture, their readiness. Any misstep could be fatal. Yet, despite the tension, he felt no hostility. The palace seemed to recognize him, as if it had been waiting for this moment for centuries. He moved closer, careful to show no aggression. Every step was deliberate, calculated. "I am Captain Elias Varn," he said. "I carry a message from Earth. There are forces in the galaxy preparing for war. I hope we can find a way to prevent it together." She had heard rumors of humans' influence across the galaxy, tales of courage, ingenuity, and defiance. But nothing had prepared her for the reality of one standing in her palace. She remembered the first human, centuries ago, whose bravery had altered her life. And now she sensed a familiar spark in Elias. Something about him reminded her of hope, resilience, and a strength that could not be measured by technology alone. "You speak of war," she said softly, almost to herself. Then louder, she addressed him directly. "Many humans have come before, some seeking peace, some seeking conquest. How can I trust that you are not here for the wrong purpose?" "Because I am willing to risk my life for peace," he replied. "I am not here to conquer, only to prevent destruction. Humans do not always act perfectly, but we are capable of reason, of courage, of choosing what is right even when it is difficult." She could sense the truth in him, but she could not ignore the political dangers. The factions within her court would not tolerate weakness. They would see a human in her palace as a threat, a weapon to be seized. Yet she also remembered the lessons from her past. Sometimes alliances could form in the unlikeliest of circumstances, and the bravest hearts often came in unexpected forms. "Very well," she said finally, rising gracefully from her throne. The motion was fluid, controlled, yet carried a weight of power that made Elias instinctively step back. "You may speak with me, but under strict observation. Any sign of deception, and you will regret your presence here. I seek only dialogue and understanding." He realized that Zyphora was not just a palace, but a living entity of intelligence and history. As they walked, Cerelia spoke quietly, her voice barely audible over the soft hum of the corridors. "You remind me of someone," she said. "A human from the past, a warrior who changed everything. You carry the same qualities: courage, wisdom, and unpredictability. But if I can honor their legacy and help prevent conflict, I will do everything I can." As he stepped inside, he noticed holographic displays showing star maps, timelines, and figures of ancient humans and Zyphorians alike. Elias realized that history was alive here, not just recorded, but preserved in a form that could interact with the present. He could feel the weight of centuries pressing down, the lessons of countless battles, triumphs, and failures. Cerelia took her place at a console, her fingers moving across the controls with precision. "I will show you what humans have meant to this galaxy," she said. "But you must understand, knowledge is dangerous. Some things you are not ready to hear, and yet, if we are to work together, you must see the truth." "I am ready." Their courage, ingenuity, and willingness to act had left an imprint on history. As the images continued, Cerelia spoke softly. "You carry their spirit, human, and perhaps in your hands it will return to save the galaxy once more." He was not just a soldier on a mission. He was part of a larger story, a story that connected humans to this world and its people in ways he could not yet fully comprehend. The moment was broken by a distant sound, faint but deliberate, the palace guards reacting to movement, a subtle shift in energy that signaled someone was watching them. Elias tensed, readying himself. Danger was never far, and Zyphora's politics were as complex and treacherous as any battlefield. Cerelia turned her eyes toward him, calm but alert. "We are not alone," she said. "There are those who would see you captured or worse, but if we act carefully together, we may survive what comes next." Whatever comes, humans do not retreat when the stakes are high. We adapt, we fight, and we endure. A new chapter was beginning, one that would test courage, loyalty, and the very essence of what it meant to be human in a galaxy that both feared and revered them. Elias knew the road ahead would not be easy, but he felt a surge of determination. He was not just here to survive. He was here to prove that humanity, even in the most alien of worlds, could rise to meet impossible challenges. And as Cerelia watched him, the memory of the past human warrior stirred deep within her, a reminder that sometimes the bravest of hearts come from the most unexpected places. The story of humans and Zyphorians was far from over, and in the presence of Elias Varn, it was about to enter a new, extraordinary chapter. The palace corridors stretched endlessly, winding like the roots of some enormous ancient tree. Captain Elias Varn followed the attendants, his senses alert to every movement, every whisper of light or shadow. The hum of Zyphora's energy filled the air, vibrating softly beneath his boots. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced, but he had learned long ago that the unfamiliar demanded respect, not fear. Cerelia walked ahead, her posture poised and unyielding. She had allowed him access to her private chambers, a gesture almost unheard of for an outsider. Her eyes, sharp and glowing with the green luminescence of Zyphorian royalty, flicked over him occasionally. She did not trust easily, and trust in her world could mean survival or death. Yet something about Elias called to her memory. He reminded her of the human warrior she had known long ago, whose courage and cunning had left an indelible mark on her empire. Elias glanced around as they moved. The palace was alive in a way that no machine could replicate. Walls shifted subtly, lights pulsed in rhythm with some invisible energy, and the air carried the faint scent of strange, luminous flowers. The attendants moved smoothly beside him, their elongated limbs bending and flexing with ease. He had trained to observe, to adapt, to anticipate danger. But even now, he felt the weight of centuries pressing down upon him. When they reached a secluded chamber, Cerelia gestured for Elias to enter. The room was bathed in soft, amber light, and the air shimmered faintly, like heat rising from a desert. Holographic panels floated around the room, displaying star maps, historical records, and figures of humans and Xiphorians from centuries past. Elias stepped forward, his eyes scanning the displays. He could see timelines of wars, alliances, and events that had shaped the galaxy long before humanity had become a dominant force. "Every human who has visited this world has left a mark," Cerelia said, her voice quiet but firm. "Some were warriors, some diplomats. All were unpredictable. That unpredictability is both a gift and a threat." She paused, studying his reaction. "You remind me of one who came long ago, a human whose actions changed everything. You carry their spirit. Your intentions may be true, but Xiphoria is a dangerous place. The factions within my court would see a human captured or destroyed if given the chance. They do not understand your value or your courage. We adapt and we endure." Humans and Xiphorians had fought side by side, sometimes against common enemies, sometimes against each other, yet always leaving a mark on history. Elias saw humans wielding strategy, courage, and unexpected cunning. He realized the legends he had heard were only fragments of the truth. "These humans were not perfect," Cerelia continued, her tone thoughtful. "They were reckless at times, proud, defiant. Yet they inspired loyalty, courage, and innovation. They could change the course of events in ways no other species could. Your Majesty, there are reports of unusual activity in the outer corridors. Unknown entities are approaching the palace perimeter." "I am ready," he said, adjusting the straps of his armor. "Whatever comes, humans do not retreat when the stakes are high. We face challenges head-on." Advisors, nobles, and strategists moved through the halls, each presenting their own agenda, their own desires, their own interpretations of power. Elias observed them carefully, noting body language, subtle cues, and the faint tension that underlined every interaction. Humans had learned that reading intent was just as important as wielding weapons. Here, it would be equally vital. "Many see humans as unpredictable," Cerelia said softly as they moved through a corridor. "That unpredictability can terrify or inspire. It has allowed humans to survive where other species have failed. It is both your greatest weapon and your greatest danger. We adapt, yes, but we also act with purpose and reason." "This is the galactic chessboard," she said. "Many pieces move without thought, without strategy. Your presence here can tip the balance. But beware, others will see you as a threat before they see you as an ally. Humans have learned that wars are not won by strength alone, but by seeing the patterns others cannot see." Suddenly, the chamber trembled slightly. Alarms echoed through the corridors, a warning signal from the palace outer defenses. Cerelia's expression hardened. "They have found out. The factions within the palace are moving. They seek to capture you, human, before we can act." Humans had survived countless wars by adapting, improvising, and acting decisively. He would not fail now. "We can handle this," he said calmly. "If we work together, humans and Xiphorians, we can outmaneuver them." The room, Elias realized, was not just a chamber of knowledge. It was a strategic command center. Over the next hour, they worked quickly. Elias coordinated with the loyal guards, learning their movements and tactics. Cerelia provided insight into the palace's architecture, showing how light, energy, and design could be used to their advantage. The synergy was remarkable, human ingenuity combined with Xiphorian experience. As they moved through the palace, a skirmish broke out in the outer halls. Factions of rebels, eager to seize control, clashed with loyal guards. Elias acted with precision, using both strategy and instinct. He guided Xiphorian guards through ambushes, leveraging human improvisation and the palace's shifting layout. Every move showcased humanity's unique ability to adapt under pressure. Through it all, Cerelia observed him, a mix of pride and caution in her gaze. This human, like the one from her past, possessed courage, intelligence, and a willingness to act when others hesitated. He was more than a soldier. He was a force that could tip the balance of the galaxy if guided correctly. Finally, after repelling the initial threat, they returned to the private chamber. The palace hummed with residual energy, the echoes of battle fading into silence. Elias wiped sweat from his brow, feeling the weight of the day. "You have shown remarkable skill," Cerelia said. "Not just as a soldier, but as a strategist. Humans are not just warriors, they are thinkers, adapters, and survivors. That is why I remember your kind. Perhaps it is time to see what you are truly capable of." He was part of something larger, something that spanned centuries and species. And in that moment, he understood the truth of the Empress's words. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also capable of brilliance, courage, and endurance beyond measure. In the palace of Zyphoria, under the gaze of an empress who remembered the past, Elias Varn felt the weight of destiny pressing upon him. He had entered this world as a soldier, but he would emerge as something more, a symbol of humanity's strength, adaptability, and hope. Outside, the palace lights pulsed with the rhythm of the planet, as if acknowledging the arrival of a human who might once again change the fate of an empire. Elias felt the surge of determination within him. The challenges ahead would test every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of courage he possessed. But he was ready. Humans had survived worse, and he would ensure that history would remember Earth not as a minor player, but as a force to be reckoned with. The first step had been taken. The Empress had remembered. The game had begun. And humanity, in the form of Captain Elias Varn, had entered the arena. The palace of Zyphora was quiet now, but its silence was not empty. Every corridor, every wall, every glowing crystal seemed alive with memory. Captain Elias Varn walked beside Empress Cerelia, each step taking him deeper into the secrets of a civilization that had endured for millennia. The hum of the palace resonated beneath his boots, carrying whispers of ancient battles, lost knowledge, and the bravery of those who had shaped history. Cerelia led him through a hidden doorway that opened into a spiral of luminous steps. Elias noticed that the walls here were covered in symbols, some geometric, some organic, all glowing faintly with energy. The air felt warmer, charged, as though the very atmosphere had been prepared for centuries for this moment. He followed silently, aware that every detail mattered. In a place like this, even the smallest observation could reveal the difference between survival and disaster. At the top of the spiral, they entered a chamber that Elias could barely comprehend. It was enormous, far larger than any room in the visible palace, and it seemed to stretch both upward and inward at the same time. In the center was a structure that pulsed with light, an energy core that seemed alive, its surface shifting with colors and patterns that defied explanation. Around it, floating holographic images depicted humans and Zyphorians from centuries ago, their actions recorded in vibrant detail. "This is the vault of memory," Cerelia said softly, almost reverently. "It contains the history of my people and the history of humans who have walked alongside us. Here, the past is preserved not just as record, but as living memory. You may learn more than you ever imagined." Each human displayed courage, creativity, and adaptability that seemed impossible to calculate. It was more than legend. It was living proof that humanity had always played a role in the galaxy, often hidden from those who preferred to forget. "Many humans came before you," Cerelia continued, her eyes glowing faintly. "Some were heroes, some were teachers, some were warriors who sacrificed everything. One in particular stands out. He was clever, bold, and unafraid to challenge me when it mattered. His choices changed the course of my empire." A man in human armor stood alongside Cerelia's younger self, guiding her through a battle, showing her strategies she had never considered. Elias could feel the connection, the echo of a legacy he had been born into without knowing it. Humans had always been underestimated, yet their ingenuity and courage had reshaped worlds. "Who was he?" Elias asked, his voice low, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile connection to the past. "He had no name that endures in your history," Cerelia said. "But to me, he was the first proof that humans could rise above expectation, that courage and strategy are not limited to one species. You carry a part of his spirit. That is why you are here. I will do what he could not, and what I must, to protect life and prevent destruction. It contains knowledge, strategies, and histories that, if misused, could ignite a war across the galaxy. Some within my court seek to claim it for themselves. They will stop at nothing to gain control. We can protect it." The patterns were complex, but Elias' mind worked quickly, mapping potential routes, predicting movements, and considering contingencies. "Humans have a talent for seeing patterns others overlook," Cerelia said, almost to herself. "Perhaps this is why we have survived alongside your kind. Observation alone is not enough. Strategy must be combined with action." Elias realized that humans had always been underestimated, not because they were weak, but because their ingenuity was unpredictable. As they worked, the first signs of trouble appeared. From the outer halls, distant alarms echoed faintly, growing louder with each passing moment. The factions were moving, and the palace itself seemed to pulse with tension. Cerelia's eyes hardened. "They know of your presence," she said. They seek to seize you and claim the knowledge you carry. We must act quickly. If the core falls into their hands, the consequences will be catastrophic. We adapt and confront it head-on. He had fought alongside humans in countless battles, and now he would fight alongside Xiphorians. Adaptation was survival, and alliance was power. Together, they moved through hidden passages, avoiding the main corridors where rebel factions had gathered. Elias guided the guards with precision, using knowledge from the holographic projections to anticipate ambushes and blockades. The palace itself seemed to respond, lights shifting to illuminate safe paths, walls subtly adjusting to provide cover. Humans were quick to adapt, and the combination of his instincts with Ceralia's knowledge of the palace created an unprecedented advantage. They reached a secondary chamber where the energy core could be accessed for protection. Elias studied the controls, noting the delicate balance required to stabilize the core's energy. Ceralia explained its function. It was not just a power source, but a repository of intelligence, holding the histories of both humans and Xiphorians. Misuse could trigger conflict across multiple systems, destabilizing alliances and causing countless deaths. Many have underestimated humans, Ceralia said, her eyes meeting his. They fail to see the combination of courage, creativity, and adaptability. You, human, carry all three. That is why I trust you here. We act, we endure, and we protect what must be preserved. The loyal guards, guided by Elias, repelled intruders with precision, proving that strategy and courage could overcome superior numbers. As the day turned to night on Xiphora, the chamber glowed with a soft, steady light, a beacon of hope amid uncertainty. Elias had proven himself not just as a soldier, but as a strategist and ally. Ceralia watched him carefully, seeing in him the reflection of the human who had once saved her empire. "You have done well," she said quietly. "But the greatest challenges are still ahead. The factions will not cease, and the galaxy will test your resolve. Remember, human, courage is not enough. Wisdom, adaptability, and unity are what will ensure survival." Then we face them together. Humans have always risen to meet the impossible. I will ensure this is no different. The past had been remembered, the present was in motion, and the path ahead would define the legacy of humans and Xiphorians alike. Outside, the palace shimmered under Xiphora's twin moons, silent yet alive. The galaxy waited, unaware that a human soldier and an alien empress were now allies, working to prevent catastrophe. Within the vault, among the glowing memories of the past, Captain Elias Varn prepared for the trials that would come, ready to prove that humanity, unpredictable and brilliant, could rise to meet any challenge. And as the first distant sounds of conflict reached the chamber, Elias felt a surge of determination. This was not just survival. This was humanity, showing its strength, ingenuity, and courage to a galaxy that had long underestimated it. The palace of Xiphora, once quiet and majestic, now trembled with tension. Outside, alarms echoed through the corridors, and the distant hum of approaching energy weapons set every nerve on edge. Captain Elias Varn adjusted the straps of his armor and readied his gear. He had trained for combat in countless environments, but nothing had prepared him for this. A palace alive with energy alien factions moving silently through its twisting halls, and the fate of an entire empire hanging in the balance. Empress Ceralia moved beside him, her calm presence a contrast to the chaos around them. Her glowing green eyes scanned the corridors, noting every shift of light, every movement. She had commanded her palace for centuries, but never had she faced a threat so immediate and so dangerous. And yet there was a strange comfort in Elias' presence. Humans were unpredictable, but their ingenuity and courage had saved her before, and now she sensed that he might do it again. "They will attempt to seize the core," Ceralia said, her voice steady. "If they succeed, they will hold power over the entire galaxy. We cannot allow it." The palace itself seemed to respond to their presence. Lights shifted to illuminate safe paths, walls subtly adjusted to provide cover, and the hum of energy seemed to pulse in rhythm with their movements. Elias noted every detail, calculating risks, planning routes, and anticipating attacks. The first skirmish came suddenly. From a side corridor, a group of armed rebels emerged, their weapons charged with bright, crackling energy. Elias reacted instantly, using a combination of agility and strategy. He directed the loyal Xiphorian guards with precise commands, positioning them to intercept the attackers while minimizing casualties. The humans and Xiphorians moved together seamlessly. Elias was impressed by their discipline and adaptability. But he knew that raw courage alone would not win this fight. Strategy mattered. He noticed a pattern in the rebels' movements and quickly devised a plan. Using the palace's shifting architecture to their advantage, he led the guards to flank the attackers, cutting off escape routes and forcing them to surrender. Cerelia observed silently, her mind noting his decisions. "Your tactics are unconventional," she said quietly, almost to herself. "But they are effective. Humans have a way of seeing possibilities that others miss." The rebels retreated and the corridors fell silent once more, but the calm was temporary. More factions were moving through the palace, and their intent was clear. They wanted the energy core at any cost. Elias and Cerelia knew that the next confrontation would be larger and more dangerous. They reached the chamber where the energy core was housed. The core pulsed with vibrant light, casting shifting patterns across the walls. Elias could feel its power, a living presence that contained knowledge, strategy, and history. If it fell into the wrong hands, the consequences would be catastrophic. "Prepare the defenses," Cerelia said. "We cannot allow them to reach the core." They were relentless, moving with precision and intent, but Elias and the loyal guards were ready. Energy blasts lit the chamber as humans and Xiphorians worked together, blending brute force with strategy. Elias dodged and countered, using both his strength and his mind to turn each attack into an advantage. Cerelia demonstrated her own brilliance. She used her knowledge of the palace's architecture to manipulate the flow of the battle, closing corridors, shifting walls, and creating traps that the attackers could not anticipate. Elias marveled at her skill, realizing why she had been a revered leader for centuries. Together, they were a force unlike any the rebels had faced. Despite the chaos, Elias remained focused. He moved among the guards, directing their actions, reinforcing weak points, and ensuring that the core remained protected. Humans thrived under pressure, and his presence inspired confidence. The combination of human ingenuity and Xiphorian discipline turned the tide of the battle, forcing the attackers into retreat after retreat. Yet the rebels were determined. A second wave arrived, larger and more coordinated than the first. Elias knew that this would test every skill, every instinct he possessed. He adjusted the defenses, anticipating their tactics, and prepared for close combat. Humans had always been adaptable, able to turn even the most desperate situations into opportunities. He intended to prove it again. The fight intensified. Energy blasts streaked through the chamber, lighting the walls with bursts of color. Guards fell in rows, wounds were treated swiftly, and the sound of strategy in motion filled the air. Elias moved like a conductor of chaos, orchestrating each action, each counter with precision. At one point, a rebel managed to breach a side entrance, moving toward the core. Elias reacted instantly, intercepting the intruder with a combination of speed and strength. The two clashed in close combat, a blur of motion and determination. Elias' training and instinct gave him the edge, and he disarmed the attacker, forcing surrender. Cerelia watched with a mix of relief and admiration. "You are more than a soldier," she said quietly. "You are a strategist, a leader, and a protector. Humans have always been underestimated, yet here you prove their true value." Elias and Cerelia moved together, anticipating each threat, guiding their forces, and ensuring that the energy core remained secure. The palace itself seemed to respond, walls shifting, lights pulsing, corridors opening to give advantage to those defending it. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the attackers began to retreat. The loyal guards had held the line, the energy core remained secure, and the palace was safe, for now. Elias allowed himself a moment to catch his breath, feeling the exhaustion that came from both physical strain and mental exertion. Cerelia approached him, her expression serious but calm. "You have done well," she said, "not just in battle but in strategy and leadership. Humans have a way of seeing solutions where others see only obstacles. You have proven that here. Perhaps it is time that the galaxy sees humans not as unpredictable outsiders, but as capable allies. Your courage and strategy have saved not only the palace but the balance of power." Yet he also felt hope. Humans had survived impossible situations before, and with allies like Cerelia they could face anything. As the palace slowly quieted, Cerelia and Elias moved to the chamber where the energy core was housed. The core pulsed softly, casting a gentle glow over the room. It had survived the battle intact, a symbol of knowledge, power, and history preserved. Elias understood its significance. This was not just a tool, but a responsibility. Humans had always taken responsibility seriously, and now he would continue that legacy. Today we survived, Cerelia said, her voice soft but firm. Tomorrow we must prepare for what comes next. There are still those who seek to disrupt the galaxy's balance, and we must be ready. Humans do not wait for danger to find them. We plan, we adapt, and we act. The galaxy has underestimated us for too long, and it is time they understand our true capabilities. The future was uncertain, but with humans and Xiphorians working together, it held promise. Outside, the palace lights shimmered against the night sky of Xiphora, reflecting off the twin moons. The world was alive, vibrant, and dangerous, but also full of potential. Elias felt the pulse of the planet beneath his feet, a silent reminder that he was part of something larger than himself. Humans had always risen to challenges, and now they had proven their worth in a galaxy that had often doubted them. In the quiet aftermath of battle, Elias looked at Cerelia. "We have shown courage today," he said, "but this is only the beginning. There are greater challenges ahead, and we must be ready to face them together. But you have shown that courage, intelligence, and adaptability can shape the outcome. That is the true strength of your kind." And as the first light of Xiphora's dawn touched the crystalline towers, he knew that the story of humans and Xiphorians was far from over. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, proving that humans were more than survivors. They were innovators, warriors, and partners capable of shaping the galaxy. The battle had been won, but the war for understanding, trust, and balance was only beginning. Elias Varn was ready. Humanity was ready, and the galaxy would never forget their presence. The aftermath of battle left the palace of Xiphora quiet but tense. The glow of the energy core pulsed steadily in the central chamber, a heartbeat of power and history preserved. Captain Elias Varn and Empress Cerelia stood together, surveying the remnants of the conflict. The loyal guards moved through the halls, repairing defenses and tending to minor injuries, but Elias knew that danger had not truly passed. The factions that had attacked were scattered, but their intent remained. Cerelia's gaze lingered on the energy core. "It is safe for now," she said softly. "But the threats beyond these walls are far from gone. Some in my court will never forgive the humans for what has occurred here. He showed courage, strategy, and loyalty. He changed the course of my life. You carry that same spirit. I can see why fate has brought you here. We learn, we plan, and we ensure that the future is better than the past." Ships hovered in the atmosphere, shadows against the twin moons of Xiphora, ready to strike again if given the opportunity. Elias studied them carefully. "Their intent is clear," he said. "They will try again, but they underestimate what humans are capable of. We can turn their aggression into opportunity. We can show them that cooperation and strategy are stronger than fear and force." Sensors were calibrated, energy shields reinforced, and strategic patrols were planned. Every detail mattered, and Elias' ability to adapt and anticipate made him indispensable. He observed the guards, learning their strengths and weaknesses. Humans excelled in adaptability, improvisation, and creative problem-solving, and he found ways to integrate those traits with Xiphorian discipline. Together, they created a defensive system unlike anything the attackers could have predicted. As the night deepened, the city below began to stir. Citizens who had been hiding during the battle cautiously emerged, watching the palace with awe and curiosity. Elias realized that the presence of humans and the cooperation between species had changed more than the immediate conflict. It had altered perception. Humanity was no longer seen as a distant, unpredictable threat. They were allies capable of shaping the course of the galaxy. Cerelia turned to Elias, her expression serious. "You have done more than survive," she said. "You have proven the value of humanity. Your presence here will change how my people see your kind for generations to come." Ships descended from the atmosphere, energy weapons charging as they prepared to breach the palace defenses. Elias and Cerelia moved swiftly to the command chamber, coordinating with loyal forces to prepare for the confrontation. The battle began with precision strikes from above. Rebels attempted to breach the palace walls, but the combined efforts of humans and Xiphorians thwarted their initial assault. Energy shields absorbed blasts, automated defenses activated, and loyal guards engaged intruders with skill and determination. Elias moved through the chaos, directing forces with calm efficiency. Every decision mattered. Humans had always excelled under pressure, turning unpredictable situations into opportunities. Elias anticipated the attackers' moves, using the palace's architecture, energy systems, and defensive technology to create traps and channels that funneled enemies into disadvantageous positions. Cerelia moved beside him, orchestrating her forces with decades of experience and insight. She knew the palace intimately, every corridor, every hidden passage, every potential advantage. Combined with Elia's adaptability and strategic thinking, they created a defense that was nearly unstoppable. The attackers pressed forward, relentless in their determination, but Elia's and the loyal forces countered every move. The energy core remained secure, its glow steady despite the chaos surrounding it. Elias knew that this moment would define the future of both humans and Xiphorians. Their ability to survive, adapt, and triumph would be remembered for generations. Amid the battle, Elias noticed a small group of rebels attempting to bypass defenses and reach the core. He moved swiftly, intercepting them with precision. The confrontation was intense, energy weapons flashing, bodies moving with speed and skill. But humans had always excelled in situations where adaptability and courage mattered more than numbers. Elias disarmed the attackers and directed the guards to secure them. Cerelia observed the actions with admiration. "You are more than a soldier," she said quietly. "You are a leader, a strategist, and a protector. Humans have always been underestimated, but here you prove their worth." Humans and Xiphorians working together can achieve what neither could alone. As the first light of Xifora's dawn touched the palace towers, the chamber of the energy core was quiet once more. The glow of the core illuminated Elias and Cerelia, a symbol of survival, wisdom, and hope. The city below slowly emerged from hiding, citizens peering at the palace with a mix of awe and relief. Humanity had proven itself not as conquerors but as protectors, allies, and innovators. Cerelia turned to Elias. "The galaxy will remember this day," she said. "It will remember that humans are more than outsiders. They are capable of courage, strategy, and partnership. You have changed the perception of your kind forever. You honor the human who came before you, and in doing so, you honor the future of all who follow. Perhaps it is time for the galaxy to recognize that humanity is not just a survivor, but a force that can shape destiny." Misuse could have destroyed worlds, but their cooperation had ensured it remained safe. He realized that this moment was more than a victory. It was a lesson for the galaxy. Strength and power alone were not enough. Intelligence, courage, and the willingness to act with purpose were what mattered most. Over the following days, Elias worked with Cerelia to strengthen the palace defenses, train loyal forces, and stabilize political tensions within Xiphoria. Together, they created a system that ensured the core's protection and reinforced the bond between humans and Xiphorians. The factions that had attacked were neutralized, their ambitions curtailed by strategy and diplomacy rather than slaughter. Citizens of Xiphoria began to speak of the human soldier who had entered the palace and fought alongside their Empress. Stories spread of his courage, intelligence, and adaptability. Humans were no longer distant outsiders. They were allies, capable of shaping the future alongside Xiphorians. Elias understood that this was the essence of HFY, the recognition of humanity's unique strengths: courage, ingenuity, adaptability, and moral resolve. They could face impossible odds, learn from history, and inspire others through both action and example. He had proven it in the palace of Xiphora, and he knew that the galaxy would take notice. Cerelia watched him as he prepared to return to Earth with knowledge, artifacts, and a strengthened alliance. "You carry more than information," she said. "You carry proof of what humans can achieve, and that proof will resonate far beyond this planet. Humans do not seek to dominate, but to survive, to protect, and to inspire. That is our true power." The galaxy beyond waited, unaware that humans and Xiphorians had formed a bond that would influence countless worlds. As Elias prepared to depart, Cerelia placed a hand on his arm, her eyes reflecting both pride and hope. "Remember this day, human," she said. "The past has remembered you, the present has tested you, and the future will depend on your kind's courage and wisdom." Humanity had proven itself once more, not just as survivors, but as heroes, allies, and a force capable of shaping the galaxy. The story of Captain Elias Varn, the Empress, and the Palace of Xiphora had reached its conclusion, but the legacy of humanity's courage and ingenuity would endure forever.